The thing is that the processed food, the synthetic food, is where all the problems are. It's what causes all the illnesses, and also it's very high calorically and has no nutrients in it. But that's 95% of the food in the supermarket. And really, it should be illegal, like cigarette smoking. They finally decided, right in the 1960s, the Surgeon General said that it was causing cancer and all these other problems. But today, still haven't come to that point where they really came out and said that, and it all has to do with the big corporations and money. So the money, and a lot of people on the Food Drug Administrations in our country are from the big corporations, lobbyists, and so forth. So do you want to be a prisoner? Do you want them to kill you? Do you want them to take your money so you buy their food and it's going to kill you? So you're going to enjoy, when you have that spiritual awakening towards food, you're going to enjoy wholesome food. You look at that other food with all the poisons in it. You say, I don't want that. You want something wholesome. Vegetables, right? All kinds of, to me, it's like all things from the ground, grains. But even if you eat other types of things, more protein, people call it, all those kinds of foods, so long as this, in this country, the reason we gained all the weight was from the processed foods. Years ago, people ate all different foods, but they were wholesome, natural. They were natural foods. They didn't have the corporations making all the synthetic stuff in it. Slowly changing your perception, and I always use the water, changing your perception towards water. What do we, people say they haven't had a glass of water in years. They drink coffee, they drink all of these drinks, soda, all the crazy, even juices, whatever it is, synthetic and all kinds of processed stuff. But this is where God's gift to us, a natural, wholesome way of having liquid. And again, it's 0 calories, so that it doesn't matter, different diets, so long as it's natural, wholesome food. So we needed that revolutionary change. It's the only way out of this mess with this addictions. Food is the main addiction in this country, and people here, I know a lot of people are here for that, but anything. It says in the big book, many places, the answer to all our problems. It's all perception. It's all a perception change and thinking of things differently, looking and seeing the difference in our thinking, and all of a sudden we were struck with abstinence. They have a phrase called struck with abstinence. So again, that whole year I was trying to control it. I wasn't struck with abstinence. I was struck with self-will. Myself was trying to solve something. So how could the crazy mind who brought me in that situation resolve it? That actually was another part of me, the spiritual side. But the corporations have set it up so they told you what the perception should be, the craziness of making food our answer to all our problems, right? We made food our higher power. And basically, it's this natural way of eating, wholesome, God's gift of food. And it goes on to say, it just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. Again, they're using the word fighting it. We don't have to avoid it. If we keep on trying to avoid it, it's like saying, I'm trying not to think of something, then you automatically think about it. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. That's amazing. The verbiage here is just amazing. Position neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. The problem has been removed. And you know what? We don't do it. All we have to do is have a belief and understanding faith. If you liked the video so far, press the like and subscribe button. We have two sides. The human side wants to get more things of the flesh, and the spiritual side. So it says, so long as we maintain a spiritual experience, fit spiritual condition. So during the day, and it says in step 12, practice this principle in all our affairs. But basically, it's all about letting go and having this perception change. Stop fighting it. You just look at it differently. And sometimes even during the week, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's called the educational variety. Start seeing the processed food for what it is, real poison. And I'm on a whole food, plant-based diet. So people say, well, what are you talking about, faith? Well, weren't we making food a higher power? Weren't we making drugs, alcohol, whatever you deal in? Or weren't we making success or money or anything in life? Things of the flesh, material things. Those are just the false sense of the ego saying, if I have more of this, I'm going to be happy. It's momentary pleasure. So we can have the ultimate bliss and happiness by going through these steps and working the program. And it's all related to the 12 steps. So people say, what's your food program? I say, well, there's 12 points, 12 things to my food program. I don't know, there's no other way. Actually, and I'm not going to read it now, but in the OA 12 and 12, there's a whole page on page 10 where it talks about, it says all the diets, all the pills, all the surgery, nothing helped. And you know yourself, people here You can't argue with me because everybody here knows that 95% of the things. So when I'm out of spiritual condition, I'm making other things my higher power. I'm making that food that the corporations brainwash me into thinking that that's going to solve my problem. Momentary pleasure. What we're always looking for in life is to be happy, but it's more of a blissful nature, which we can have when we get out of our addiction. The food takes us away from that. Wanting to be successful makes us miserable. Wanting to people, codependent on people to like us makes us miserable because we're trying to find joy and happiness in something where it never fills you up. It never is going to, because the more you have, the more you're going to want, and the more pain and devastation is on the other side. I mean, the 10-step promises, it's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but pretty much it relates a lot. And again, we're here for all addictions, but the food addiction, it seems to relate a lot to that. And, and I put in the lobby position neutrality. And it starts out, the 10-step promises is on page 84, if you do have the copy of the big book there. And it starts out by saying, we have ceased fighting anyone or anything. So my whole way through life in this addiction, again, I'm going to refer to the food because a lot of us are here for it, is fighting it. By the dieting and trying to control it, I was fighting it. I was actually saying, hey, this stuff is so powerful. I was making it powerful by fighting it, rather than just letting go. And the position neutrality has to do with, and it says, if we read on in the 10-step promise on page 84, it says, for by this time sanity will have returned. So I had to realize it was my thinking that was insane. When I realized, I always say, we'll realize where the problem was, then we can resolve it. If you liked the video so far, press the like and subscribe button. We will seldom be interested in liquor. We could put food in there, any other addiction. How about people? We could put people in there. We're dependent on people. And so with the food, seldom be interested in it. So if I'm trying to control something, I'm really showing that I'm very interested in it. What I need a perception change so it doesn't relate to it on a different basis. And right, step one tells us alone we're powerless over it. So again, we're trying to take the power, we're fighting it. And it says, if tempted, recoil like it from a hot flame. Before, I couldn't recoil from it because the obsession was so strong. It could be the obsession to, food obsession we're talking about. It could be people who even are anorexic or bulimic, all these things related to food. It's the obsession with food. And it says, we react sanely and normally. Is trying to control something? Look, trying to control something, is that reacting sanely and normally? Same with our reaction with people, trying to fight somebody or telling them who we think we are, or arguing with them, or trying to win the argument. Is that reacting sanely and normally? And it goes on to say, we'll find this will happen automatically. After a while, through repetition, it becomes automatic. We'll see that our new attitude towards, we could say liquor, food, it could be gambling, anything in our life, has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes, this is the miracle of it. So this whole program is a miracle. And the way miracles happen is when we don't try to do it. We say, how did that happen? And how it happens is through these 12 steps and the perception change. Seeing things differently. It could be the educational varieties it talks about. Diets fail. And the 5%, when you're strictly on it, I was on a strict diet for a year. And every day I was miserable. I might as well went out, When I was in AA, if a guy would come in, didn't want to work this program, was miserable every day, we said, you might as well go back out and experiment and do it, have another drink. And see, until you realize you want to work the steps in the program. Because there's only one way out of this, and it goes way back to the beginning of the big book, where Dr. Silkworth said, he said, there's only one solution. All the doctors and scientists with synthetic knowledge couldn't solve the problem. And again, here we are over 80 years later, and guess what? The doctors and scientists with all the medical discoveries, if anybody here knows, haven't discovered a solution to our addiction to food, or it could be alcohol, anything, right? Temporary, maybe. But even then, it just doesn't work, because we need a psychic change. We get that through a spiritual, look, to me, we were born to be happy, joyous, and free. We're created in God's image, but we have a spiritual side. We were created to be happy, just like in perfection, our body works physically, the heart beats, the breathing, everything. Our mind has perfection. It's just that we get in the way, called through the ego. If we woke up in the morning, we didn't think of the self, and we did this step 3, give my will and my life over to care of my higher consciousness, we'd be out of the addictions, our addictions, we'd be happy, because that's the way we're normally made to be. The way we know that is little children, right? When they're out playing, they're in the present and they're just enjoying life. They're not thinking. But then, as we got older and society told us how we had to think, then we went a little bit crazy and off center. And the same with the food that corporations told us that this is the joy. They play the songs and happiness is this food. So the way out, and we always say the solution to this whole problem is, and we'll go through it, is the 12 steps. Step 12 says that spiritual awakening. And if you listen here at the meeting, a lot of people, all of us here, when we share, we're in the solution, not the problem. The problem is when I went to a meeting or when I shared or tell somebody or call people up and say, look, here's what it's like. I have this issue with somebody and I go through what's called the problem. The same with our addiction to food. We try to control it. And if I do this differently, if I do that differently, the answer is always in here. We're looking to resolve it by controlling it through the outside. But the answer is within. So we can be, and this 10-step promises says, I like where it says also on page 85, it goes into, and it tells us in the next paragraph, what we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Addiction to food is a perfect example. It's killing everybody in this country. 75% of the country is overweight and obese and has all these illnesses related to that. I mean, we could get into all of that, but mostly it's a spiritual solution. But what it does to us when we get into the addiction with alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, our addiction to people makes us miserable, upset, and it says in the big book it causes the death, right? This being resentful towards people, this addiction, whatever it is, we make that, and the food really is something that gives us all these diseases and all these problems in this country. So what we do is, again, the daily reprieve is when I see God's gift and my body's God's temple and look at it a whole different way of thinking. What does it say on page 25? We could go to that quickly and then we're going to hear from the shares from everybody. But on page 25, it tells us what we need. And this third paragraph down, it says, the great fact is just this and nothing less, that we've had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude towards God's universe. So I look at it now and I see it for what it is, poison. I don't want that anymore. The corporations to tell me what to eat, this poison. It's most of 50 ingredients of all chemicals and preservatives. And so it had to be a perception change. It couldn't be, well, I'm going to resist that or I have to have it. The perception changed when I look at it. It's like looking at a cigarette. You want all that, it's just, who wants that? A lot of people say they stop smoking. They can't even stand the smell of it. Same with the food. After a while, you got a perception change. You don't want that. It's all the ego saying, I got a great idea. I got to get more people to like me. I got to make more money. I got to have more food. Looking for things on the outside. Forgetting about the spirituality. And I had said that I listened to a lecture a few weeks ago on the internet that all these experts, doctors, nutritionists, everybody there, scientists, they talked all these ways for this food addiction, but they left out one word. I didn't hear it once, the word spirituality. To me, that's the only answer I've seen, having perception change.